Happy Thursday, Facebook friends. Welcome back to Facebook and 2022. My name is Angie Garza. I'm the Director of Professional Learning and Educational Services at ROE 47, serving Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. And if you are just joining us here this fine Thursday in January 2022, we are back with another edition of our Teacher Talk. Right before the new year, we had a wonderful opportunity to speak with our educational leaders and colleagues, Chris Tennyson and Josh Knuth, to reflect on the year and all that has transpired. And we identified some of the challenges and successes that we've seen in education over the past year. And so in that spirit of reflecting and looking ahead, as we start off this brand new year, we are going to spend some time this morning doing a little further reflecting and looking forward to all of the supports and services that we are able to provide our teachers, families, and students in our 3-county service area. And so to do that this morning, I am joined by my friend, colleague, and co-host, digital teaching and learning specialist, Stacy Dingus. Good morning, Miss Stacy. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Angie. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. Sounds crazy to say 2022. It was funny because my husband and I were telling our kids, we remembered when it went the New Year's Eve of 1999, I'm aging myself, to 2000. And so how are we at 2022? But nonetheless, I'm excited to get this year started. I'm excited for these teacher talks because we, as of today, are really going to kind of start honing in and focusing on some extra supports we have for our teachers and our students and our families as we get back into school and get back into the swing of things. So let's get started.
See, it's so funny that you say that. Someone told me the other day, we survived Y2K, and if we survived Y2K, we could survive anything. And I had to laugh about that. That seems so far away, but really put some things in perspective. And you are so right. We have some wonderful supports and services for our teachers and for our families. We are very excited to dig back in and showcase everything that we are able to do and to provide in that spirit in 2022 and beyond. So before we took a break for the holidays, in our conversations, we kind of identified that some of our schools and our teachers were having some challenges in terms of keeping morale up and recruiting and retaining teachers. And so we thought it would be a great thing this morning to revisit some conversations that we started in August with our new network to support special educators. And that is the Illinois Elevating Special Educators Network. And so as we look at supporting those special educators in our schools, we are excited to welcome back to Teacher Talk the Area 1 IESE Program Advisor, Shauna Dingus, and our Area 1 Regional Specialist, Kelly Markham, to our Teacher Talk this morning. Good morning, ladies. Happy New Year. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Angie and Stacy, for having us again. It's a great opportunity to talk more about what we're doing in our area to support our special ed teachers and our districts.
Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Shauna. Thank you so much again for being with us this morning. And I did mention, Shauna, that we kind of started our conversations about our new Elevating Special Educators Network back in August, and we are now sitting in January. So we are a good 6 months in, halfway through the school year, halfway through our fiscal year. And so I'm just really excited and curious. What has been the work of the network since we last spoke with you all those many months ago? There's been a lot of growth. I'm excited to hear more about it.
There has been a lot of growth for us. Again, this was a special ed grant from the federal government that just started really last summer. So what we've achieved already in our area has been great. And so we want to highlight some of those things. We've done a lot of professional development. That was one of the things our special ed teachers asked for most across the state, was they did not feel that they ever received any professional development specific to their jobs. And we know their jobs are really difficult and more unique than a general ed teacher. So we did a lot of training. We've done monthly cohorts to get a little bit of PD and more like a support and networking opportunity for our special ed teachers. So we've done that monthly. We've done quarterly PD, a longer session about different topics, whether it's like managing like your school environment. This upcoming one, we'll be talking about like prioritization of learning and like closing those achievement gaps. So we've done those also. And then we've also went into districts and done professional development. We know in our districts right now, we're seeing a lot of difficult behaviors across the board. And that's because there's so much trauma in our schools and our kids. And so we have to react with what's going on in our schools. And so we have went into districts and provided training for their whole staff. And that's really been a good thing for both the teachers and us to develop those relationships with the schools. And then we've also started an admin academy, and that is to help our administrators learn how to deal with all of our students and look at the data specific for special ed. And so we kind of covered all those bases for professional development, but we've also went in and developed relationships with districts and worked school improvement. We've done that with a few different area schools where we're going in, looking at special ed in, specifically, and then worked on improving the services for our children with disabilities. And so that's very important because a lot of times, again, I have my admin degree, we get about one class. This goes in and helps with that and how to actually apply, improvements to our special education for our teachers, but for our learning and our students also. And then we've also done some coaching and mentoring for specific teachers. So we have a lot of new special ed teachers in our area that it's overwhelming when you get in. Some of these teachers haven't even really had the proper training in college because of COVID. They might not have really student taught, they might not have that same experience. So having that coaching and mentoring piece is also important. So we have more of a one-on-one relationship. So I can go in and sit in a classroom with that teacher and say, okay, this is all the things you're doing well, and this is how we can make a few improvements to help, the learning for our special ed students. So we've really grown exponentially, really quickly, and it's been great to develop those relationships with the schools, but more importantly, our special ed teachers who need the support in our area.
Shauna, there's so many things that, as you were talking, were kind of bubbling to the forefront of my mind. I think about our teacher shortage, which we've talked repeatedly about here on Teacher Talk, and how important it is to not only recruit those really high quality special ed teachers, but also to retain them. And we know that there are some concerns with regards to classroom management behaviors that we're seeing with students, trauma. In addition to growing so much, I'm sure you've learned so much, not only with looking at some data and some feedback, but also just kind of getting into classrooms and developing, as you said, those relationships with teachers. I'm curious, if you could summarize some of the needs that you're seeing from our special education teachers and from our schools in terms of special education. What are you seeing? What have you learned? What are the teachers telling you? What is the data telling you?
I'm seeing how we're not supporting our special ed teachers enough. And I look back to my, time when I was in school teaching and working with the special ed teachers. And I don't think we're training our teachers how to work with our special ed teachers and how the partnership really should be developed. Special ed should be at the forefront of our conversations, not the end result of our conversations. We need to design learning to again, our students have all kinds of needs, whether they have an IEP or not, especially these days with the gaps. We have so many gaps because of what COVID has done. So we need to really change how we're teaching our general ed classrooms to include all learners. And so what I've learned is that we need to have special ed as the forefront of our conversation in building our schedule, in designing how, we're learning. All those things shouldn't be for special ed students. It shouldn't be a place. It should be a service, and all of our students, whether they're special ed or not, should be able to receive something to meet their needs, because our kids are everywhere right now. If that's one thing I've learned, that's the hardest thing on our teachers, whether you're a general ed teacher or a special ed teachers, our kids are everywhere. Both, you think of the trauma, but you think of the learning gaps also. And we're really focused too much sometimes on the learning gaps instead of just, focusing on the main prioritization of standards. What are the core things we have to have? And I think that's so important to think of for all students, but especially special ed students. And so we have to continue to support our teachers and give them strategies and kind of the grace that you might not get to all your curriculum, but that's okay. That we have to focus on what are the priority standards, what do we need to really work on, so when they go to the next grade level, that they're prepared for those priority standards, because we know, COVID's not going to go away quickly anymore. We figured this out, and there are long-term effects. So we have to lessen them by focusing on the important stuff. But most importantly, like you said, the teacher shortage, and especially with special ed teachers, it's dire. It's really dire across our state. And we really have to focus on incorporating those special ed teachers with our general ed teachers. We don't do it enough to make them feel welcome. They kind of feel like outsiders a lot of time, and they should be core components in that general ed classroom. And we need to give them the time, both general ed teachers and special ed, to work together to do what's best for students. And a lot of times that time has been taken away from them. So we really have to go back and re-examine what we're doing in schools to make sure we're doing what's best for all students. Because if we're differentiating for special ed students, we're doing what's best for all students. It doesn't matter, because we're all over the place right now.
Kelly, Angie, and Shauna just talked a little bit about the need. We know that the need is there for these services. So I wanted to ask you, what network supports can teachers, administrators, and even our schools access that can kind of focus on the need that is obviously out there?
So hitting on what Shauna and Angie had both said about the shortages, and realizing that there aren't just a plethora of subs waiting to step in so that our teachers can attend our events. We've done a lot of work virtually. And like Shauna had said, we've gone into the classroom so the teachers can remain where they belong. We are offering professional development. We're offering some cohorts. And then we have, like I think Shauna said, the Admin Academy. So I'm going to give some dates just so we can get that out there. We have our cohorts that meet from 3:30 to 4:30 on Wednesday afternoon. So we have January 12th. We're going to talk about our supporting students in the general ed classroom. On February 9th, we're going to do some work with math interventions and making those strategies work for all learners. And then on March 9th, we're going to do ELA, English Language Arts interventions, and what strategies work for students there. And then we'll also have another cohort on April 11th and May 11th as well. Those topics will be determined based on needs that we've heard from the teachers that we've worked with. And then on January 21st, we're going to have some professional development. In the morning, we're going to talk about, is this important? Prioritization of learning and addressing learning gaps. And in the afternoon of that same day, we are going to discuss and talk about and work with writing goals for our IEPs in that afternoon. And then on March 16th, we're going to talk about the topic of Can I Do This? Accessibility, data, and student goals. And then in addition to the cohorts and the professional development for the teachers, again, we're going to have the Administrative Academy, which is leading data-based conversations to benefit all of our students.
That's great. So many great opportunities, learning opportunities for so many when we talk about this. Kelly, if I'm a teacher and I'm just listening to this online, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I need my calendar. I need to write these things down. Where can we find more information about the grant, about you, the services that you and Shauna are offering? Where do we go to look to get more information on this?
So you can definitely visit the ROE 47 website, and that is where you would look to sign up for all of the things that I had just talked about. You can also visit the IESE network website as well. Some of our things are listed there. Shauna's and my contact information would be there as well. And you can always reach out to Shauna and I to have us work with you independently or with just your school. So really 3 avenues of communication to get involved with what we're trying to do.
Kelly, thank you so much for all of that great information. As a reminder to everyone, please check out the details in the post included with our video for easily accessible links to all of those contact information pieces that Kelly just mentioned. So friends, this closes out our first Teacher Talk of 2022 in season 2 of our ROE 47 Teacher Talks here on Facebook. I want to close this morning with just a couple of notes that I thought were really important out of our conversation today. First and foremost, I hope everybody heard the fact that we're talking about all students and all teachers and all educational communities. Really, we do our students a disservice when we talk about those students or we further marginalize some of our students in our schools. And so the emphasis on improving outcomes for all kids and the fact that these really wonderful opportunities can benefit all teachers and all students and all families is a really important one. The second thing that as we take a step forward into 2022 that I'd like to remind everybody of is the fact that even though we are still in the midst of a seemingly never ending pandemic, it's so important to continue to move forward and to kind of keep that hope and to keep our eyes focused on the future. So if you are a special education teacher, a teacher, an administrator, a community member who's out there listening, please remember that even though things might still seem very overwhelming as we start the new year, it is always healthy and always very positive to remain future focused and to continue to step forward to make improvements to benefit all of our students, our families, and our communities. So on behalf of my friends, all 3 of them who are on our Teacher Talk this morning, Stacy Dingus, Shauna Dingus, and Kelly Markham, and Regional Office of Education 47, we wish you a very, very happy new year, a great start to 2022. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. And we're not done yet. So join us back here next Thursday for another edition of Teacher Talk.